It was one of those bitter winter nights in early February, where the air bites through your coat and the streetlights cast pale yellow halos in the mist. I just finished my shift at the diner. My feet ached, my eyelids drooped, and I couldn't wait to get home, shower, and sleep. I missed my usual bus by 3 minutes. The schedule said another would arrive in 20. I almost considered calling a rideshare, but I was broke. So I wrapped my scarf tighter, pulled my hood up, and sat alone at the stop. When the bus finally hissed to a stop in front of me, it was empty. Totally empty. Not even a driver in sight until I stepped on, and there he was. A man in his mid-60s, maybe, with deeply sunken eyes and gray stubble. He didn't greet me, didn't even glance my way. Just kept staring straight ahead. I tapped my fare card and moved down the aisle, taking a seat near the middle. I always avoided the back at night. Too many bad memories. Too many weirdos. At first, everything seemed normal. The bus creaked into motion and the engine hummed beneath my seat. City lights blurred outside the fogged windows. The heater kicked on, hissing softly. But 10 minutes in, I noticed something strange. Someone was sitting behind me. I didn't hear them get on. I didn't hear footsteps or the sound of the doors. But when I glanced at the darkened reflection in the window, I saw a figure 2 rows back, head tilted, body rigid. He was dressed in black. A long coat. Pale skin. His eyes were fixed on me. I told myself not to freak out. People ride buses. Maybe I just didn't hear him get on. But then I looked up to the front. The small convex mirror above the driver, designed to let him see the passengers, it showed only me. No one else. I blinked and looked again. Still just me. I turned around in my seat. Quickly. The row behind me? Empty. 2 rows back? Empty. I stood, heart racing, and scanned the entire bus. No one. The hairs on my arms rose. I gripped the metal pole and turned to the driver. "Excuse me," I called out, walking toward the front. "Wasn't there someone else on the bus just now?" The driver didn't respond. His hands tightened slightly on the wheel, but his eyes didn't leave the road. I frowned. "Sir?" Still nothing. I touched his shoulder. He flinched, violently, and looked at me like he hadn't realized I was there at all. "What?" There was someone behind me. I saw them. He stared at me for a moment, then slowly shook his head. "You've been the only one on this route since the depot." "But I saw." "Sometimes the reflections play tricks on tired eyes," he interrupted. "Especially at night." I wanted to argue, but a small part of me doubted myself. Maybe I had imagined it. Maybe I was just exhausted. I returned to my seat. The window beside me was now fogged over, a thin spiral etched into the mist from the inside. Like someone had drawn it with their finger. I wiped it clean. There was nothing behind the glass but darkness. That's when the bus slowed down. I checked my surroundings. We were in a neighborhood I didn't recognize. The street signs looked foreign. Faded. One was completely blank, like the paint had been scrubbed off. The buildings looked old. Not historic. Just neglected, like they belonged in another time. "Where are we?" I asked aloud. The driver didn't respond. I stood again and approached the front. "This isn't my route. You missed my stop. What's going on?" His hands gripped the wheel tighter. "I can't stop here." "What? Why?" He looked at me, finally. And for the first time, I saw genuine fear in his eyes. "He gets on here." "What?" My throat tightened. The doors opened with a wheeze. No one boarded. The bus remained still for several seconds. Then, without warning, the lights overhead flickered. I felt something shift. Not just in the air, but in reality. Like the temperature dropped a degree. Like the walls stretched an inch further apart. I turned around. The bus was no longer empty. 2 rows back, directly behind my seat, he sat again. Same black coat. Same pale skin. Same wide, unblinking eyes. Except this time, his mouth was moving. Silently. Just barely. As if he were whispering something through clenched teeth. I backed away slowly, my pulse pounding in my ears. Do you see him now? I asked the driver, voice trembling. He didn't answer. I'm getting off. I want to get off. I told you, the driver murmured, I can't stop here. You just did. He didn't reply. The doors remained shut. The lights flickered again. When they came back on, the bus interior was different. The windows had fogged completely. The ads above the seats were written in some strange script I couldn't read, twisted symbols, looping characters that seemed to move when I looked away. And the man? He was now in the row directly behind me. Closer. Still whispering. Still unmoving. I sat down quickly, not knowing what else to do. I shut my eyes. I counted my breaths. In. Out. In. Out. When I opened them again, we were back on a normal street. The lights returned to their normal hue. The windows cleared. The advertisements were in English again. The man was gone. And the driver pulled to a stop near my usual transfer point. This is you, he said, voice hollow. I scrambled off the bus without another word. As the doors closed behind me, I turned to look inside. The driver was gone. So was the driver's seat. I walked the rest of the way home in silence, trying to rationalize what happened. I never told anyone. Who would believe me? But ever since that night, I don't take the bus anymore. And every so often, when I glance at a passing bus window, I see him, sitting in the back row. Whispering. Waiting. I've always loved the subway. It's predictable, rhythmic, a grid of steel nerves running under the city, carrying everyone from Wall Street XX to exhausted night shift workers. For someone like me, who lives in a tiny 6th-floor walk-up and works in a noisy print shop, the subway was the one place where I could just plug in my headphones and drift. Until the night I saw the shadow. This wasn't some half-glimpse out of the corner of my eye or a trick of the light. I wish it was. I wish I could brush it off as a glitch in my overworked brain. But I saw it, clearly. And what I saw has made me question everything I thought I understood about the world. It was a Wednesday. I remember that because I just survived midweek madness at work, our heaviest print day. My manager, Janet, was her usual nightmare self, demanding perfection while knocking over ink bottles and blaming the interns. By the time I left, it was past 9:30 p.m. The subway station was a level deeper than usual due to some surface line maintenance. I descended stair after stair until I reached platform 6X, a seldom used line known for skipping stops at night. The walls were lined with peeling posters and the flickering lights gave the whole place a jaundiced hue. It smelled of ozone and wet concrete. But I was too tired to care. There were maybe a dozen people scattered along the platform. A guy in a parka talking to himself. A couple in full goth regalia. An older woman clutching a red umbrella, even though it wasn't raining. The kind of people you ignore, and who ignore you right back. I stood near the middle of the platform, earbuds in, playlist queued up, waiting for the train. That's when I felt it. Not saw it. Felt it. A coldness that crept up my spine like an unseen thread. A change in air pressure. Like something had just entered the space beside me, even though nothing had moved. I turned my head and scanned the platform. Nothing. Just the same tired strangers, standing still like mannequins under the flickering lights. Then I saw it. Across the tracks, on the opposite platform, completely empty except for a flickering vending machine and a few trash bins, I saw a shape standing in the far corner. A person, I thought. At first. But it wasn't moving. It looked like the absence of light. Like someone had taken a human outline and carved it from the shadows themselves. It stood perfectly still, just to the left of the far stairwell. No facial features. No clothing. No reflection on the tiles. Just a silhouette, darker than anything around it. I blinked. Still there. I squinted, trying to see better. The lights on that side of the platform were dimmer, but there was enough glow from the vending machine that I should have been able to make out something. But this figure didn't react to the light. It didn't catch reflections or shift with perspective. It was flat, almost two-dimensional. But it felt like it was staring straight at me. I pulled my earbuds out. Something was wrong. Very wrong. Did you see that? I asked aloud, turning to the guy in the parka next to me. He glanced up, mid-mumble. "See what?" "That shadow. Across the platform." He looked, narrowed his eyes. Then back to me. "Nothing there, dude." But it was there. And worse, it had moved. Now it stood directly across from me, still on the far side of the tracks, but exactly parallel with where I stood. Still unmoving. Still featureless. Still impossibly black. "Okay, no," I muttered to myself, stepping back toward the stairs. "Not tonight." That's when the train came. A blast of stale air. The low groan of brakes. The doors whooshed open and I got on, still rattled but trying to calm down. I sat in the middle car, where only 2 other passengers slumped half asleep. The doors closed. The train lurched forward. I thought I was safe. But as the car slipped into the tunnel, I glanced out the window across the aisle. There it was. Running beside the train. Not on the tracks. In the wall. A shadow, sliding effortlessly along the concrete wall outside, perfectly aligned with my window. Not jerking, not bumping, gliding. No arms, no legs. Just that humanoid outline, like a child's chalk drawing made of pure darkness. I gasped and pressed myself against the opposite seat. My heart was slamming into my ribs like it wanted out. The other passengers didn't react. Either they didn't see it, or they were ignoring me. The tunnel lights flickered past in rapid succession, and the shadow didn't falter. It stayed, always visible just outside the window. Then came the next station. The train slowed. The shadow halted as well. As the doors opened, I made a snap decision and bolted out, leaping onto the platform before the chime could sound. I nearly stumbled over a trash can but caught myself, turning to see if the shadow would follow. It didn't. The train pulled away, the light disappearing down the tunnel. The platform was nearly empty again. A man reading a newspaper. A maintenance worker mopping graffiti off a wall. 2 teenagers sharing earbuds. I found a bench and sat down, breathing hard. Then I noticed something strange. The wall behind me had graffiti tags like most subway stations. But one of them, a crude, circular scribble with sharp lines radiating from it, was glowing faintly. Not reflective paint. Not light catching the color. Glowing. I leaned closer. The edges of the symbol vibrated, like they were humming just beyond my hearing range. When I reached out to touch it, my fingertips felt heat. Actual heat. That's when the humming began. Faint, low-pitched, like the subway rails were resonating. I looked around. No train was coming. Then came the whisper. Not audible like a voice. More like a thought worming its way into my brain. "Don't turn around." I froze. I hadn't even realized I was about to turn, but now, hearing that command, I felt compelled. Every instinct told me not to listen. But some deeper instinct made me obey. I sat perfectly still, breathing shallowly, eyes fixed on the glowing graffiti. Another whisper followed. "He watches through the gaps." "What?" I whispered aloud. Silence. Then. "The lights don't flicker. They blink." Suddenly, the station lights did flicker, 2 long pulses of darkness, then light. Each time, the shadows on the walls shifted in ways that didn't match the direction of the lamps. I turned my head slightly, just enough to catch a glimpse down the tunnel. The shadow figure was there again. This time, on the platform. About 20 yards away, standing under a flickering bulb. Still. Watching. Still just an outline, but closer. I bolted. Didn't care where. Just needed to move. I ran up the stairs, taking 2 at a time, barely noticing the dim emergency lights and the way the graffiti symbols seemed to increase as I ascended. I reached the upper platform, then the turnstiles. But the exit was chained shut. Padlocked. Behind me, the whispers started again. Dozens of them, layered over one another, unintelligible yet angry. I turned to find the shadow on the upper level now, standing halfway up the stairs. Closer. No footsteps. No sound. Just there. I ducked through the nearest service door, normally locked but hanging slightly ajar. Inside, pitch black. I used my phone's flashlight to cut a narrow path through what appeared to be a forgotten maintenance corridor. Exposed pipes. Water stains. A sense of wrongness in the air, like I was walking into a sealed tomb. The deeper I went, the louder the whispers became. My flashlight flickered despite being fully charged. My compass app spun wildly when I tried it. Then the hallway opened into a small room. Empty, except for a single, rusted subway map mounted on the far wall. But the map didn't show the modern lines. These were old. Lines I'd never seen. Curves and stations that didn't exist anymore, or maybe never did. One stop, near the center, was circled in red marker, VYIE. No such station existed. Not in any system. I stared at it, heart thudding, until something moved in the corner of the room. I spun, raising my light. Nothing. Just shadows. But when I turned back to the map, the red circle had grown. Now it throbbed, like a wound. And from behind me, a whisper, clear and loud. Your stop is next. Your stop is next. The words rang out clear, too clear for a whisper, but too low for any ordinary voice. I spun again. Nothing. No footsteps, no shifting air. Just that still, suffocating black. I backed toward the subway map on the wall. The circle marked VYIE still pulsed, red ink glistening in the glow of my phone light. It didn't make sense. No such station existed, and yet something in me recognized it. As if I'd been there before. A rumble vibrated through the walls. The entire room quivered slightly, like a train had passed beneath it. I froze, ears straining. Another rumble. Closer. Then came the low, mechanical screech of brakes. And that familiar chime. Doors opening. Except it wasn't coming from any platform I could see. A new passageway had appeared where the opposite wall had been. I swear, it hadn't been there before. Instead of the rusted concrete, I was now staring into a freshly lit tunnel. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. It looked clean. Sterile. Too sterile, like a simulation. And in the middle of it stood a train. Sleek, silver, silent. Its doors open. Every instinct told me to turn and run. But something else, some compulsion not entirely my own, pulled my legs forward. I stepped into the tunnel. The air shifted. Heavier, humid. Like entering a greenhouse sealed too long. The moment I passed the threshold, I heard them again. The whispers. But now, led with something new. Weeping. Soft, distant, echoing from within the train. I approached the doors. Inside, the lights glowed a pale green. The walls shimmered slightly, as though wrapped in thin plastic. I couldn't see the end of the car. It just stretched on. With trembling legs, I stepped in. The door snapped shut behind me. No chime. No warning. Just silence. Then, movement. The train began to glide forward. No lurch, no screech. Smooth. Seamless. I looked around. At first, it seemed empty. Row upon row of pale seats, each curved unnaturally, too wide, too narrow, too low to the floor. The windows looked out into solid blackness. Then I noticed the passengers. Every other row, someone sat, bent forward, head in hands. Faces obscured. Some wept softly. Others mumbled incoherently. But none moved. Not even when I passed them. I walked the length of the car slowly. My footsteps didn't echo. Even my breathing sounded muffled. I reached the fourth row, and stopped. One of the passengers had no shadow. The overhead light cast a soft pool around the seat. But beneath the figure's feet, there was nothing. Just blank space. No silhouette. No distortion. Like the body was disconnected from physical laws. Then the figure looked up. No face. Just a smear of shadow where the features should be. I backed away in horror. The figure didn't follow. It just tilted its head, slowly, mechanically, and stared. That's when I heard the footsteps. Not from in front. Not from behind. From above. I tilted my head back. The ceiling of the subway car was transparent. Or maybe it had turned transparent. And something crawled across it. A figure, identical to the one I'd seen on the platform, was pressed to the glass, moving like an insect, joints bending in impossible angles. Its head rotated toward me, no face, no eyes, but I felt it watching. It began tapping. One finger. Then another. Rhythmic. Tap. 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 Then. Tap 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 tap. Like Morse code. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I yelped, pulling it out. One notification. From an unknown number. He knows your name now. I dropped the phone. The lights in the car flickered violently. All the weeping stopped. Every passenger lifted their head. All at once. Every face, a blur. Every eye, a void. They turned toward me. The door at the far end of the train slammed open. Darkness poured in like water. And behind it, he stepped in. The shadow figure. But this time, not flat. Not an outline. A full form. Humanoid, yes, but wrong in every proportion. Longer arms. No mouth. A chest that rose and fell too slowly. Limbs that twitched in time with the flickering lights. I bolted. Shoved past the faceless passengers, down the length of the car, to the next door. It opened before I touched it. Another car. More passengers. Each turned toward me as I passed, each face more distorted than the last. Some mouths too wide, some eyes sewn shut. I kept running. Car after car. No end. No conductor. No announcements. Just flickering lights. The hum of movement. And the sound of him following me. Always one car behind. The final car, if you can call it that, was unlike the others. The seats were gone. The walls were made of polished black metal, reflecting my terrified face back at me. The ceiling arched high above, curved like a cathedral. At the center, a spiral symbol glowed faintly, identical to the one I'd seen as graffiti earlier. And in the middle of the floor was a mirror. Standing upright. Its frame made of rusted metal. Cracked glass. But the reflection it showed wasn't mine. It showed the shadow. Standing still. Then, slowly, it raised one hand, and pressed it to the glass. A new whisper reached me, deeper than the rest. Let me out. And the mirror cracked.